Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Spatial sound can be divided into three different layers. Sounds coming from the horizontal.
Hey YouTube, Audio Olympian here, back with another video coming to you from Audio Olympia, where the world meets through music, movies, and speakers. Okay, today's video, I did a thing here not too long ago. But what I recently did was upgraded from my Emotiva amplifier that I use on the center channel here to a Parasound. And so we'll get into that here in a second. If this is your first time visiting our channel, we want to welcome you. Thanks for stopping by. We'd appreciate if you could hit that like button if you found this video informative or even just a little entertaining. And don't forget to subscribe if you like everything audio, stereo, home theater. That's what our channel is here. And mine isn't the flashiest or the biggest channel. It's still pretty baby size here. But I just like to give a little bit of my input and my thoughts and feelings on select audio gear that I get. Everything is my own purchase. I'm not affiliated with any links or any companies, sadly, but I am an audio enthusiast. So if you're into that, go ahead and subscribe, hit that bell notification. That'll let you know when we have another video kick out to the tube. So this video comparison here is going to be a little different than my normal ones. I don't really have any strong clips comparing the two. I purchased a Parasound amplifier, the A21 to be exact there. And that is a stereo amplifier. Now it's the original A21, not the A21 Plus. I just didn't want to put that much into upgrading my center channel amp. And the reason is that Emotiva XPA2 amplifier it's incredible. It really has great highs, great bass, and the sound is really magnificent. Now, if you've been following my channel and watch me, you know I bridge my XPA2 for 1,000 watts. Now, I don't know if it's exactly 1,000 watts. However, Gene Delasala from Audioholics did a review on that specific amplifier quite a while back. You can go and read it on the forums, on the Audioholics forum. And I recently just went and reread it, and he did all the measurements. He's got all the measuring tools and everything over there at his center. That's what he does. And so he did take some measurements and said that when you bridge that amplifier, it's supposed to be at 1,000 watts. They did testing on it, and it was at, I think they had it at 850. And he said, and it still had quite a bit of headroom left over. So he even gave his stamp of approval on it, saying that he doesn't doubt that it can reach 1,000 watts. So that being said, I've tried other amplifiers that were not bridged at 1,000 watts or pushing at 1,000 watts for my center channel. I even had the Emotiva XPA1, which is a monoblock 500 watt channel amplifier. And that one it's still, the volume of it, the impact of it compared to my front speakers, both being at 1,000 watts, because I used two XPA2s there, both of them bridged. When I had the XPA1, it still was, it was lacking. Sounded good, but it was lacking. You could tell it was half the amount of power than my front mains. So I even went and used a tube amplifier and hooked it up at one point in time. My Carver Crimson 275. Of course, that's only rated at 75 watts per channel, but you can bridge it, and that's what I did. I bridged it. Plus, I was also curious if tube sound was going to sound any different, or if I was going to get better sweets, or a better sweet sound or tones with the tube amplifier as my center channel. So I bridged it. It was pushing 150 watts on the tube amplifier. So kind of using it as a monoblock amp. And that was extremely lacking in the amount of impact and speed and power that it had. It's, again, sounded good, but in the theater room compared to 2,000 watts on the sides of it, right, 1,000 each way, it was not as relevant in the room. It really didn't have a place. So I didn't keep that set up for long. I was just playing around with the system one day. So in looking around at different amplifiers, of ones that can be bridged and that's going to give you a boost of power, I read into and came across the Parasound A21. Now I already own a pair of Parasound mono blocks. They're the JC1s, and those things are fabulous. I use them over in my listening room. And in fact, I even used one of those as a center channel when I first got them in. I swapped my amps out just to see if it was going to give me some better sound there. Now, it did sound better. The Parasound sound on the amplifier is incredible. It really is. So revealing, so lifelike. Very good mid-range, and that's, remember, for me, in my opinion, that's the key to having really, really good sound, is the mid-range, that mid-bass, those mid-level sounds there in that maybe 80, 90 to 100 hertz range. If a company can really grasp the hold of capturing that and replicating those sounds in that area there, well, in my opinion, that's when you have magic in a bottle. Some companies do, and they can do it for a very budget entry level cost. Some companies do it at a more high-end level cost, right? So it just really depends on what the flavor of your coffee is that you like, right? So when I had swapped in my JC1, again, only at 400 watts for that monoblock amp, still was lacking compared to the 1000 watts. Now, when I say lacking, I'm meaning more just that loud, in-your-face presence in the room. Sounded good, but it just didn't have the presence of the two XPA2s on the side. So I quickly moved that back, and I use that in my listening room. Hunting around, I came across the Parasound A21, which is rated at 250 watts per channel. It's a stereo amplifier that you can bridge, and you can bridge it to about 750 watts when it's bridged. So I thought, let me go ahead and give that a shot. I really do like the Parasound amplifiers, the build, the quality, the sound, and 750 watts is not much less than the XPA 2's bridged at 1000 watts. Now I do know the A21 Plus, which I would love to have, but just I didn't want to put the budget into that. I just didn't want to put the money into that because I'm really just kind of upgrading. I'm not really in a need for that amplifier. It would be nice to have though, right? If you bridge the A21 Plus, that one will bridge up to 1000 watts. And I may maybe sometime in the future here upgrade, switch my A21 out and get an A21 Plus. But for now, I'm using the A21 original at 750 watts. So the Parasound is really, really good in the bass section there. Emotivas are very good in bass. Now, I will say this, if you like that higher tone or that higher pitch, similar to like a clipped sound, the Emotiva does have more top-end sound for that amplifier, which still paired very good with the the Paradigm center channel here. But the Parasound just gives you a little bit more realism, a little more lifelike sound than the Emotiva. Now, of course, they are totally different price points of amplifier. I believe the XPA2, when it originally came out, I don't know, maybe 12, close to 15 years ago, it was only $800. A total steal and bargain for the build quality, the features, for an amplifier that can push that amount of sound and that sounds very, very good. Now, being that it does have a little bit more top-end sound than the mid-range, so it's lacking a little bit in the mid-range, but it does have good bass. It can be a little mechanical sounding. However, the good thing that you can use or do in the event if you have Emotiva amplifiers, which I do, and I love having those amplifiers in my theater, a good receiver or a good preamp processor that has good features and good DAC and calibrating systems into it, you can really tone down the sound of kind of that mechanical high-end sound there. But the thing that I think it has that for is because those amplifiers can get really, really loud. Now I'm talking about the older model Emotivas. I'm not much of a fan for the newer model, the newer version. I think those are a little bit more Class D amplifiers instead of the Class AB. And even some of their older amps were semi-Class H, which to me gives you a little bit more of a true transparent sound. Class Ds, you can pack in a lot of power and it's not real heavy. You can put it in a small little box. Amplifiers. So to me, listening to Class D amplifiers, I always catch a little bit more of just kind of a lower tone sound there. So not very transparent, doesn't have a lot of top end on the amplifier sound there for Class Ds. However, they are getting better and better today. For the more refined Class D sound amplifiers, you're probably going to pay a good price for those amplifiers, but they'll be worth it. Okay, so I do have some quick shots and pictures here, and we'll go ahead and do a little bit of comparison in size and features that are on both of these. Okay, so here's some quick shots side by side. They're roughly the same size, which I like that because that lets me know both companies put in a great amount of detail and research and development in putting these amplifiers together. Now, I did just recently watch a John Curl video. It's an older video, quick clip. He was talking at some audio fest that he was at, and they asked him, why does Parasound have such a great sound, that unique patent sound? And the thing he attributed it to was Parasound uses the best capacitors that are out there. Now, I have kind of seen inside both of the amplifiers just using my flashlight and light. You probably can't see it very well in the pics here, but they both use a good amount of caps, big caps too, which do help control the sound. A huge toroid for the power inside of the amplifiers there. And Parasound actually has a lot more shielding and covering over the toroid, so it's really going to lower that noise floor. Whereas Emotiva's does have it covered, but it's not shielded like the way Parasound is. Again, you're comparing, I'm comparing a little bit of an $800 amplifier to, I believe, originally when the A21 came out a few years back. I believe it's 10 years, maybe a little over 10 years old already. I want to say that was around 2000, maybe 2100. So very, very different price point. I would expect the difference in price range of amplifiers. I really would expect the higher price one to perform better. And in this situation, it really does. And that's okay though. Emotiva's goal was to make something that could punch above its weight class and have really good sound at an affordable price. And they definitely hit the nail on the head with that one when they came up. So on the back, you can see here basically about the same amount of features there. They both have triggers. However, the Parasound trigger is not the typical 3.5 millimeter. Theirs is 2.5, so it's a little bit smaller. So I needed an adapter to be able to use to connect into my system so that the trigger would turn it on when I turn on my power on. So that was a little bit of a downside there because I didn't initially have one. I had to order one. And but for Emotiva, they have theirs. Both of them have an in and out, so you can power other sources. Now I do like on the back here of the Parasound that the binding posts are a lot closer together. So when I bridge that sound, I don't have to spread the the speaker cable really far apart in order to connect for the mono sound, for the bridge sound. However, on the Emotiva, I have to do that. So I believe it's close to a 12-inch spread that I have to kind of pull apart the speaker cables there. So not my most favorite thing to do. It's not the worst thing in the world, but I would have preferred to have them a little bit closer, so it makes it a lot easier if I'm buying aftermarket cables, not making my own or anything. aftermarket cables usually do not come with the ending terminals being able to separate about 12 inches apart. So that's a better plus there in the Parasound section. Now I do really like the silver look of the Parasound amplifier. That one does come in black. For the Emotivas, that's just the one color, the one look that they have, black. And I switched mine out originally. It did have the black trimming, but from one of my other amplifiers, I switched out the silver trimming because I like how that looks there. They both have that kind of blue glow for the light. But when the Parasound is off, that is kind of a low red light glow there. And on the Emotivas, it's a little bit of an amber color there. Lets you know that the amplifier is off. I do like that better on the Emotiva because the Parasound, and as we all know, even when our components and equipment are off, they're still drawing a little bit of power. And the Parasound sometimes in a brighter room can kind of look like it is on even if it's off because of the amount of power it still draws. So the red is still glowing a little bit. It's just not as bright. So there have been times I've come down to my room, total dark room, and I thought, wow, did I leave my amplifiers on? And I had checked them out and no, they were off. But that light, being that it doesn't change any colors, it can look a little bit like it's on still. And even the blue behind the power button here, it still can be a little bit faint, shining or showing there. So can look a little bit on. I do like the Emotiva, the total change of color to the amber, you know it's off. So that's just one little bonus benefit that I like on the Emotiva amplifier. Now the Parasound here does have big heat sinks on the side, and I do also like that it has the handles in the back of it. The Emotiva amplifier weighs a little bit more. It's around 84, 86 pounds, somewhere around there. And the Parasound came in at about 74, I believe it is, 72 pounds, something like that. Don't quote me on that. You can go look that up there. But I know the Parasound is a little bit lighter. I don't mind that because heavy equipment is just heavy equipment. 80 pounds is 80 pounds. When you're going to move that around, put it in a rack, pull it out, shift it, turn it, you know, you definitely don't want to drop that thing. And having something a little bit lighter is always more pleasing and easier to move around. Okay, so in closing here, didn't have much more for you guys here. Again, this wasn't a full comparison, but a little bit of my closing thoughts here. How did I feel switching in the Parasound for a little bit lower power pushing amplifier? Again, it's only pushing bridged at 750 watts, Emotiva 1000 watts. How did I feel it fared, and how does it sound, and does the sound blend well with the other amplifiers and the other speakers? Yes, 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 and yes, right? It didn't miss a beat. It really didn't. And again, it added a little bit more of that mid-range here for that center channel. And again, the Founders 90C is just an extraordinary speaker, and it can actually handle some really, really good power. So I knew that this was going to be a really good match. When you hear sound move across the front stage from right center to left, or left center to right, or even from front to back, it doesn't sound different. It blends really well, and I like that. So it wasn't like I could pick out, oh, there's my center channel with the Parasound amp. There are my Paradigm speakers with the Emotiva amplifiers. And even in the rest of my setup here, oh, those are my Emotiva amplifiers with my Golden Ears speakers. Everything blends together really, really well. So kudos to Golden Ear for making such a great speaker as well, and even their satellite speakers. Paradigm, fantastic job on their speakers. Emotiva for making great amplifiers that sound really good at affordable prices. And then, of course, Parasound really putting the frosting or the icing on the cake there. High quality, great sound, great look, and really can push some good power to serve your needs for any speaker that you have out there. So again, that's about all I have here. Thanks for watching, you guys, and we'll see you on the next video.